Let me tell you about a man named Sizwe. Sizwe lives in Johannesburg, South Africa. He is 32 years old, a father of two, and in the late 1990s, he was diagnosed with HIV. At that time, the medicine that could have kept him alive, antiretroviral drugs, existed. It was sitting in pharmacies, it was being prescribed to patients in New York, London, and Paris. Doctors knew exactly how to use it, the science was there, the cure was there. But Sizwe couldn't have it. Not because his country lacked doctors, not because the medicine was hard to make, because the patent on that drug set the price at $10,000 per patient per year, in a country where the average annual income was under $500. Sizwe didn't die from HIV. He died from a patent. And today, his house has the opportunity to decide that no one, no child, no father, no mother, should ever die from a patent again. Good day, honorable judges. I stand as first proposition, and today I strongly support this motion that pharmaceutical products should not hold patents when distributed to developing countries. Let me be precise in what this policy does and what it does not do. This motion does not abolish pharmaceutical patents globally. Companies retain full patents right in wealthy markets. The United States, Europe, Japan, Australia. They continue recovering their research investment from those markets. They continue profiting. What this motion does is this. When a pharmaceutical product is distributed into a developing country, defined by the World Bank classification of low and lower middle income nations, generic manufacturers in those countries may legally produce and distribute the same product at competitive price. The patent does not apply in the distribution context. The innovation incentive remains. The profit model in wealthy market remains. What differs is the system that used the same patent to price medicine beyond reach of people earning less than $2 a day. Now let me show you exactly why this matters in three arguments that together make one unavoidable conclusion. First, medicine that cannot be accessed has failed its only purposes. The assertion is simple. A pharmaceutical patent system that prices medicine beyond the reach of developing nation is not a commercial inconvenience. It is a structural violation of universal human rights. Here is the mechanism. Patent grants monopoly rights. Monopoly rights remove competition. Without competition, there is no market force pushing the prices down. Pharmaceutical companies set prices based on what wealthy markets will pay, and then apply those same prices globally because the patent prevents anyone else from producing a cheaper alternative. That is not an accident. This is the design outcome of a system that treats medicine as a commercial product rather than a public good. Access to medicine is recognized under Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a fundamental component of the right to health. Every country represented in this room has signed that declaration, and yet the patent system produces a world where the same antiretroviral drugs that cost $10,000 in South Africa cost under $100 when generic manufacturers are permitted to produce it, as happened when India and Brazil exercised compulsory licensing provisions in the early 2000s, 100 times cheaper. Identical medicine, the patent was the only difference. When this motion passes, generic manufacturers in developing countries can legally produce these medicines. Competition drives prices to manufacturing costs, which for most drugs is a fraction of the patented price. Medicine reaches the people who need it, not just the people who can afford it. For the first time, the system fulfills its stated purposes. Tell me, what is the point of a cure that only cures the rich? Second, unprotected populations don't stay contained. They become the origin of the next variant that infects everyone. The proposition's second assertion, restricting medicine and vaccine access in developing countries does not protect wealthy nations from disease. It incubates the next version of the disease inside unprotected populations and exports it back to the world. Here is the mechanism. Viruses mutate fastest in large, unvaccinated, and untreated populations. Every new host is an opportunity for a new variant. The longer a pathogen circulates without being suppressed by medicine or vaccines, the higher the probability that a mutation emerges, one that existing treatments may no longer recognize. You do not need to imagine this. You lived it. COVID-19, by mid-2021, wealthy countries have vaccinated over 40% of their population. Low-income countries have vaccinated less than 1%. Why? Because pharmaceutical companies held patents on mRNA vaccines. Pfizer, Moderna, and wealthy countries had pre-ordered billions of doses before developing countries could access supply chains at all. The patent system concentrated product capacity in wealthy nations and left developing countries waiting. In those unvaccinated populations, in those months of unprotected circulation, the Delta variant emerged, then Omicron. Both variants broke through existing vaccine protection in countries that had already vaccinated their populations. The people of wealthy nations who had paid for and received their vaccines were then infected by variants that emerged precisely because 80% of the world could not access the same vaccines. The patent system doesn't protect wealthy countries. It manufactured the conditions for its own failure and sent that failure back across every border. If this motion had been in place during COVID-19, generic vaccine production in developing countries would have been legal from the moment distribution began. Coverage would have been faster. The mutation window would have been smaller. Delta and Omicron may never have achieved the scale they did. This motion is not charity toward developing nations. It's a rational self-interest for everyone. You cannot vaccine your way to safety while leaving 80% of the world unprotected. Biology does not respect the boundaries that patent creates. Third, when treatment is unaffordable, incomplete treatment becomes the norm, and incomplete treatment manufactures something far more dangerous, that is resistance. The third assertion in accessibility of medicine in developing countries does not just fail to cure diseases, it actively produces drug-resistant strains that then spread to the entire world, including wealthy countries with fully funded health systems. Here is the mechanism. When a patient cannot afford a complete course of antibiotics or antivirals, they take what they can and stop when the money runs out. The pathogens that survive partial treatment are, by definition, the most resistant one. They are the ones that did not die. They reproduce. They spread. The drug was supposed to treat the disease stopped working, not just for that patient, but for every patient that pathogen reaches next. That is not theoretical. This is tuberculosis. Multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, MDR-TB, is now documented global crisis. The World Health Organization confirmed that MDR-TB, disproportionately developed in low-income countries where patients cannot afford to complete treatment courses because the drugs are priced under patent protection beyond their reach. A disease that was considered eliminated in wealthy nations began reappearing, not because wealthy countries failed their own patients, but because drug-resistant strains manufactured by poverty and accessibility across borders that patents cannot create. The current system did not protect wealthy countries from this consequence. It exploited the consequence in a form that existing medicines can no longer treat. When this motion passes, when generic production makes full course treatment affordable, patients complete their treatment. The pathogen is fully suppressed. The resistant strain never gets the opportunity to emerge. We do not just save the patient in front of us, we protect every future patient from the version of that disease that poverty would have created. Honorable judges, let me bring you back to Siswe. The medicine that could have saved him cost $10,000. His country earned $500. Not because the science wasn't there, not because the medicine was rare or difficult to produce, because a patent said so. When generic manufacturers were finally permitted to produce antiretrovirals, after years of legal battles, international pressure, and millions of preventable deaths, the price dropped to under $100. The same drug, the same cure, 100 times cheaper. Those years of waiting were not a pharmacy necessity. They were a policy choice. And the people who died in those years did not die from HIV. They died from a system that decided their life were worth less than a patent. Today, this House has the power to make a different decision, not to abolish innovation, not to destroy pharmaceutical companies, simply to say that when a medicine is distributed to the people who need it most and can afford it least, the patent step aside. Medicine was created to cure people, all people, not the ones who were lucky enough to be born in the right country. We strongly propose.